Thanks to the digital special effects expertise in Hollywood, our eyes routinely experience impossible violations of the laws of physics, which sets an unnaturally high bar for astonishment when encountering the likes of the Bentley Continental Supersports, a leather-lined luxury two-door that weighs more than some full-size SUVs but can outrun the Corvette Stingray Grand Sport to 60 miles per hour. While your senses are telling you it's doing something magical, your brain wants to dismiss the evidence as if it were just another video on fast forward. This sense of incongruity was only heightened by the Bentley's preternatural calm as it did ridiculous things on our drive over roads outside Lisbon, Portugal, and on the track at Estoril, a former Formula One venue. Its maker claims the Supersports coupe takes only 3.4 seconds to reach 60 miles per hour, the same time we measured for a 707 horsepower Dodge Charger Hellcat and for the previous fastest Bentley, the limited edition GT3R. Yet there's no cloud of tire smoke, no tail wagging, no speedboating rear axle squat here. Just tap into its deep wells of power and torque and the big all-wheel drive coupe shoots forward, and seems happy to keep it up for so long as the driver's courage holds out. Aerodynamic resistance finally wins at 209 miles per hour, Bentley says, asserting that this makes the Supersports not only the speediest Bentley ever but also the fastest four-seat automobile in the world. The same Continental as ever, only more so. In addition to the 209-mile-per-hour coupe, the Supersports also will be offered as a convertible rated for a top speed of 205 miles per hour. Customer demand will determine the body style mix of the 710 car production run, 250 of which will be allocated to America. The first coupes will be 2017 models, and the convertible will be added for 2018. The name Supersports also appeared on a 2009 to 2012 Continental, of which 1,900 were built. The first use was in 1925 when the name was Supersport, 2 words and singular. Founder W.O. Bentley guaranteed the original could top 100 miles per hour, powered by a 3.0-liter 4-cylinder engine. This new one employs twice that displacement and 3 times the cylinders, with its 6.0-liter W12. From the 552 horsepower this engine offered in the 2004 Continental GT, output has increased to 582 in today's equivalent model and 633 ponies in the GT Speed. Starting with the Speed version, Bentley engineers followed some conventional paths to push it up to 700 horsepower in the Supersports. Bigger turbochargers feed into a reworked intake system via revised intercoolers, new main and connecting rod bearings reduce friction, and the programmers recalibrated the fuel injection, ignition timing, and cam phasing. The exhaust system also was revised for freer breathing and to invite a crackling backfire during downshifts. The 8-speed automatic transmission gets a torque converter with quicker lockup and can be shifted manually via big paddles mounted to the steering column. These are awkwardly placed, though, being too high and too far behind the wheel for quick work, and their response feels dampened. Manual selection is better done via the hefty mechanical feel-in console-mounted shifter with its dedicated plus/minus gate. In reality, the automatic programming is so good that the drivers from Bentley's own GT3 racing team say there's no advantage to choosing your own gears, even at Estoril. Make it go. After a barely noticeable delay from idle, certainly too brief to call lag, the big 12-cylinder is eager to rev to its 6,250 revolution per minute redline, just 300 revolutions per minute beyond the power peak. But what really dominates the engine's character is the massive 750 pounds-to-foot of torque, 100 more than you get in a Hellcat and fully present at 2,050 revolutions per minute versus the Chrysler's 4,800 revolution per minute peak. That and the smoothness of a 12, which has half again as many power strokes per revolution as a V8. For all its upgrades, the W12 still employs port fuel injection, so there's none of that gritty undertone that often accompanies direct injection technology. In light use, it's as quiet and smooth as any competitor's 12-cylinder. Press the pedal deep into the wool carpet and the engine emits a bass note roar that's not particularly melodious but is certainly authoritative. Given that the car costs about $300,000, odds are that most readers will only hear a Supersports from the outside anyway, where they'll be more entertained than is the driver by the exhaust crackle when the coupe downshifts. At least that's our impression from driving top-down in the convertible, in which the soundtrack spoke of performance. With the steel roof, though, the cabin is so well isolated that the exhaust noises seemed remote. Fuel economy? Surely you jest. The W12 in base form is equipped with cylinder deactivation, but that feature went over the side with the upgrade to speed specification. Expect an EPA city rating of 11 miles per gallon, which means Bentley owners will be purchasing a lot of premium-grade gasoline. And it turns. Aside from the drivetrain, the special effect that sets the Supersports apart from nearly all previous Continentals is that Bentley has adapted and improved upon the brake-based torque vectoring system it employed in the race car-inspired GT3R, a more dedicated performance model with the lighter twin-turbo V8 engine and only 2 seats. Making this W12 edition turn as well as it goes is a greater challenge, given its mass. Bentley admits to more than 5,000 pounds in coupe form and more than 5,400 for the convertible, and the coupe's front wheels are said to be burdened with 58% of the total. Even with the all-wheel drive system sending a default 60% of the torque to the rear, variable between 35 and 85%, nimble was never going to be in this car's vocabulary. By applying some braking force to the inside wheels when entering a corner, however, torque vectoring makes the Supersports turn in more promptly. You'll not mistake it for a sports car that dives for an apex, but this Grand Tourer can find that apex reliably. Lapping Estoril is an exercise in deliberation. Get all your braking done in a straight line, turn in late, and don't touch the throttle until you have your exit point lined up. Any other approach yields tire squealing understeer. In more usual circumstances, such as the back roads and the highways around Lisbon, the Supersports is fun and easy to place in corners or when you ask it to make a pass on a narrow 2-lane. The oligarch who wishes to make haste to his country retreat will be well served. The air spring suspension tuning, Bentley says, is firmer than the Continental Speed and the Supersports rides 0.1 inch lower. The suspension is tunable across 4 steps ranging from comfort to sport. The differences among them are narrow, to the point that the distinction between the firmest and softest is nearly indiscernible. Even in sport mode, the ride over rough pavement is still exemplary. It feels as if the suspension flattens bumps in the road more than it absorbs such disruptions. Carbon ceramic brake discs the size of a flying saucer, well, nearly. The front rotors are 16.5 inches across and the rear's 14.0, are gripped by 8-piston front calipers but, surprisingly, only single-piston sliding calipers in back. They do a great job of hauling down this heavy weight from the speeds we saw, up to 150 miles per hour, but they were smoking profusely after 4 laps of the track. This is a GT, not a track day special. The brake pedal has longer travel and a softer feel than we'd like, but smoke aside, we noted no evident fade in hard use. We also noticed 2 missing items: dust accumulating on the 21-inch forged aluminum wheels, and the squeal and grinding sounds that often accompany carbon ceramic discs. Bentley CEO Wolfgang Durheimer credits the engineering of the brake pads for the absence of both annoyances, part of the attention to Bentley customers' desires. Bentley also makes much of the tritone upholstery offered on the Supersports, a first in this model's nearly 15-year history. Its appeal depends largely on the buyer's choice of colors. We found some of the cars thus equipped to be quite attractive, but then there was the one in red, white, and black that reminded us of nothing so much as a bowling shoe. It all comes down to the buyer's taste when mixing and matching from the standard array of 17 hues of leather. And that's before you go full custom via the Mulliner program. Surprisingly, though, we are told that roughly 50% of Bentley customers in the US drive home in a car from the dealer's stock on the day of their first visit. If they're choosing off the rack rather than bespoke tailoring, these must be buyers unaccustomed to waiting. If it's immediate gratification thereafter, there's no Bentley that will get them up to speed quicker than the Supersports.